What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Football Corner Podcast. It's your host, Jeremiah Queen. Of course, before we get started with another fire episode, I would like for all my viewers out there on YouTube to please subscribe to the podcast. And if you're listening to me on a podcast app like Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or even Spotify, please subscribe to the podcast. Let's cue it up. So, week 8 is in the books, so it's only fitting if we cover what happened on Sunday. So let's start with Sunday recap. Now, the team I want to talk about will be the Philadelphia Eagles. They are still undefeated. The Eagles are 7-0, and they don't look like they're slowing down at any time of this season. A lot of teams, or a lot of analysts have suspected this team going 17-0. I don't know if the Eagles will go 17-0 just because it's very difficult to do so, and also like sometimes injuries happen, or even if you already have the bye, teams don't want to actually play their starters in the last week of the season. But the performance that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown put together against the Pittsburgh Steelers was one to watch. Jalen Hurts looks very comfortable in this offense. He finally has a team that believes in his skill set and gave him the weapons in the offseason in order to be able to be the dual threat quarterback he knows he can be. A.J. Brown could not be guarded. The Pittsburgh Steelers tried many ways to stop him. They tried single coverage, touchdown. It was double coverage, touchdown. Even the third touchdown was triple coverage. And it was just getting ridiculous. Jalen Hurts was just like, well, if he's down in the end zone, I'm going to just throw it up to him, and he's going to make a play because A.J. Brown is the best, or our best weapon on offense. And it begs the question, why would the Tennessee Titans get rid of a Pro Bowl caliber receiver like A.J. Brown? He has shown that he has uplifted this Eagles offense more than what they could have imagined going into the season. It was easy to see that why he was able to do that. Howie Roseman has made a lot of moves in the offseason for this team, and this team is 7-0 because of Howie Roseman's moves. They lead a stacked division in the NFC East, or as some people call it, the NFC Beast. The Eagles are not to play with. Second team will be the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott is back, baby. This is his second game coming since the injury. And for all those people who said that Cooper Rush could do the job Dak Prescott can, look, he just put up 49 points against the Bears. If you're telling me that Cooper Rush could do that, show me. Because Cooper Rush could barely get 20 points when he was the starting quarterback. And don't get me wrong, Cooper Rush did his job as a backup. Get as many victories as you can until the starter is ready to come. But Dak Prescott is a way better talent, and his offense is more powerful when he's at the quarterback and when he's playing quarterback. Tony Pollard got to start instead of Ezekiel Elliott since he's battling an injury, and Tony Pollard took off. Had a $130, 3 rushing touchdowns. There's a little juice that Tony Pollard gives to this offense. Now, Ezekiel Elliott can't give that juice because he is an age running back. And he's just not as fast as he was when he was a rookie. But Tony Pollard is a speedster, and it showed. This offense can be very explosive when you have a dynamic running back in the backfield. Dak Prescott what he always does, and throw a couple of touchdowns, manage the game, don't give the game away, and capitalize on what the team gives you. They put up 49 points against the Chicago Bears, and the Bears, they try very hard to keep this a close ball game, but there's a few plays that just was out of Justin Fields' control, who also played a really good game, that let the Cowboys be able to be a dominant team on Sunday. The Cowboys are 6-2. They are second place in their division, headed into a bye. The Dallas Cowboys are one of the best teams in the NFC. The final team I want to discuss will be the 49ers. The 49ers have woken up. They got to play the Rams, and if you take it with the NFC Championship game, Jimmy Garoppolo is 8-0 against the 49ers as a starter. Since with that, there's a problem. They beat the Rams 31-14, and they had to, especially with the addition of Christian McCaffrey, who had 3 touchdowns on the day. He had a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and also a receiving touchdown, which is the first time a player has done that since LaDainian Tomlinson back in 2005. So it just goes to show you how hard it is to do that, to have a rushing, passing, and receiving touchdown. And this team is loaded. They're starting to get some of their players back. And I don't know if the Rams are actually a good team. They're going through the Super Bowl slump. And I thought it was a Super Bowl slump when it came to people who lost the Super Bowl. But the Cincinnati Bengals lost the Super Bowl, and they are 4-3. And the Rams won the Super Bowl, but yet they're 3-5. So they have to get their team together, because it's looks like the Seahawks lead the division. I'll talk about Seahawks later on this podcast episode, but the Seahawks lead the division at 5-3, and the 49ers are 4-4, and you have the Rams at 3-5. So it's a deep hole they dug themselves in. Sean McVay has to get this team together, playing good football. You got to get your team to rally up and string together a couple wins, because if you don't, you'll be watching the playoffs from your couch. So I'm tired of people talking about Tua, about how he can't throw the ball deep. He's not an accurate passer. All he does is throw screenplays and drag routes and slants. So the reason why I bring that up is because it's time for best and worst performances, and the best performance from Week 8 will go to Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. Now, Tua has been playing MVP caliber football, and I don't think he gets the recognition that he deserves. Now, Tua, prior to having an injury, was 3-0 as a starter. He started a game against the Cincinnati Bengals on prime time, but he was unable to finish the game due to a head and ankle injury, right? So they ended up losing that game against the Cincinnati Bengals, and he will sit out because he was in concussion protocol. He would sit out for a couple of games. But when he would return in primetime against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he would win, and he didn't have the most passing yards, but he had roughly, it was like 250 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that was his first game back, so you kind of give him an excuse for being, a little rusty, was kind of inaccurate, has to play football in a couple weeks. But then he got to this Sunday, he got to play against the Detroit Lions, and did he show you why Tyreek Hill was raving about him in the offseason? He threw for 382 yards and completed 80% of his passes with a couple of touchdown passes. And Tua, despite all of the negativity and everything that's going around since he's been drafted to the Miami Dolphins, whether it's coaches or owners trying to tank for better draft picks, or even trying to get a quarterback to replace him, Tua has been through a lot of adversity, and he actually finally got a coach who is willing to side with him, work with him, and give him the opportunity to get the best out of him. Tua is playing lights out football. At this point, he's still one of the top 5 QBs in the AFC playing right now, if not a top 3 quarterback. He is playing lights out football. Tyreek Hill is leading the league in receiving yards because of Tua. Now, I heard people talking about, well, Tyreek's going to miss Pat Mahomes because of all the yardage because Tua can't throw the deep ball. Now, I will remind you, there's a potential future Hall of Fame quarterback in Drew Brees who wasn't the best at the deep ball, but the reason why he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks because between throwing a 5-yard pass and a 40-yard pass, right, he was on the money. And that's what Tua does. Between throwing a 5-yard pass and a 40-yard pass, he's on the money. Like I said, 80% completion percentage this past week against the Lions. Now, the worst performance will have to go to the quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders, and that will be Derek Carr. Derek Carr did not have the best performance against the Saints, and it shows on the stat sheet because they only put up 0 points. Now, the Saints was a team that was not... they could have figured it out. They were an offensive team, but they made too many mistakes that resulted in them losing close games. But this game, there was like, to hell with that. Let's get this job done. They came to play. The Raiders were trying to go on a rise. They thought they had a formula figured out. They had Josh Jacobs, who's playing really good football, and they thought they would be able to run the ball and use the running game in order for Derek Carr to get play action going and get some of these receivers open. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Derek Carr barely threw over 100 yards. He had like 101 yards and only averaged 3.9 yards a passing attempt. Okay, 3.9 passing attempts. And you can't do that for your QB. That's like running back numbers. Running backs roughly average 4 yards a carry, and he was throwing 3.9 yards a pass attempt. It was a bad look. He threw an interception. Jared Stidham ended up playing towards the end of the game just because they didn't want Derek Carr to get hurt. But the Las Vegas Raiders have to turn it around really quickly because it looks like the Chiefs were going to run away with this division. So it's time for my upset of the week, which will be going to the New Orleans Saints with their victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. They beat the Raiders 24-0. It's easy to say who the upset of the week was because when you pitch a shutout, you deserve it, especially when you are underdog going into the game because of the spotty quarterback play. But this team has, hopefully this will be a turning point for this team. Alvin Kamara had 3 touchdowns on the 2 receiving touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown, 3 total touchdowns. It's really good. It's really good to see this team bounce back after losing to the Arizona Cardinals on prime time. They could definitely make a push in this division because the division is wide open. No one's really running away with the lead. The Falcons have the lead currently at 4-4, followed by the Bucs at 3-5, and now the Saints are 3-5. With the Panthers at the bottom of the division at 2-6. So the Saints keep it up. Hopefully you'll be able to use this to project yourself to be a division winner and have a home playoff game. Thanks for watching and listening to the Football Corner Podcast. Podcast episodes will be dropped on Mondays and Fridays, as well as YouTube videos on Mondays and Fridays. You could click the link in my description in order to follow the social media links to my podcast social media pages. And also, you'll be able to stay up to date on new drops, new takes, and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching. See you next time.